Welcome, everybody, to the show. Joining us this evening is our fellow co-host and fellow traveler, Dan the Dan Noodles Man, the Cozy Powell of Wargaming. And joining us this evening as our very special guest is Jim Isert from the Castle Archon YouTube channel, who also does some stuff with Columbia Games, and hopefully we'll get into much of that.
It's Archon, it's not Archon.
Right.
It's Archon, yes.
Archon, okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Dan's ancient Greek is poor. That's all I can say. So,
you know what, Jim? What does that mean? Archon.
Well, Archon was just it means Duke, and it was taken from it was my name on my first store when I had a gaming store in the 90s, and it was taken from a character that I had in Dungeons and Dragons called Archon, and I took that name from the video game from our Electronic Arts in the 80s for the Atari 800 XL.
You're a hardcore gamer, then. You've been around a long time.
Oh yeah. I've been collecting games since I was 6 years old. I lived in a trailer park, and I was playing games one day with my best friend Clarence, and we played Payday from Parker Brothers. And we loved it so much, and he said, okay, I got to put this away, and he put it away, and he opened up the cabinet, and it was only like 12 games in there, but I'm like, whoa, you got that many games. And the next thing you know, I started collecting them, and I didn't have any room. I put them under my bed, and then when we moved away, me and Clarence, we lost a little touch and stuff like that, but I kept on collecting and never stopped.
And Artie, you knew about Jim. Why didn't we have this guy over?
I thought, it's just a matter of organizational bandwidth, as we say in the business here. I'm going to throw a link to Jim's YouTube channel in the video description if anybody would like to hop over there and check it out. Jim has done a lot of stuff with vintage war games, including a lot of, I think, relatively obscure stuff, as well as some stuff that's a little better known in both the wargaming and RPG spaces. So he is doing excellent work over there. I thought, there's a great question, by the way, Dan, because I was going to ask at some point this evening if the channel had been named after Archon, the video game.
It was.
For those, and folks remember that in the chat already. I played that. So Archon was like this chess thing, except that it was like a fantasy chess, and then when you moved to take an enemy piece, you'd have to you'd go to this battle board and fight it out. It was actually a lot like Titan, if you think about it.
Wow. Okay.
Except chessier.
I got Titan.
Yeah, Titan's awesome.
Like the Star Wars, they would, you go on, they'd fight a little bit, but the only thing is the defender can actually win. So it was a lot of fun. I played it constantly.
And Jim, I told you this before, but I want to say it again. You were the first guy to support me when I started out in doing the Dice Tower, and it's really appreciated. You were very, very generous. I hope not Tom, but
Grant.
Greg. I hope Greg knows. Oh, I told Greg.
There is no Greg. It's Grant.
Grant.
Yep.
That's the problem I have found with a first name starting with G. I get called Greg a lot too.
You get called Greg.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's a weird name, Brant. What the hell, Brant? It's either Grant.
I don't know. They're like Cajuns or Cajun adjacent, so I can't even tell you. Jim, are you gonna make it to Origins this year?
Well,
it's pretty close.
I plan to. I can't be on this side of the globe. The country, and not go to Origins. Is right next door.
I would abuse you if you didn't show up at least for an afternoon.
Yeah, like I was telling you, it's my favorite convention, mainly because I think it's because Gen Con, I get overwhelmed. Actually, I don't get overwhelmed as much anymore because I'm actually working the booth at Columbia Games.
Too busy to be overwhelmed.
Too busy to be overwhelmed. The blinders are on. But Origins always felt like it was small enough that your group of people that you were with, and you're meeting new people, but you'll see them again. Well, Gen Con, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. Mm-hmm. I like smaller cons like that, but Origins is not necessarily a small con, so you get the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. It's just small. It feels small because you're meeting people again and again, but it has that big show atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you're not heavily involved in activities in the main gaming hall, and or the dealer's room, then it can potentially feel like a smaller convention than it really is. A lot of the RPG people don't have to, other than when they go to the dealer's room, don't even have to deal with, huge crowds or anything like that, because they're all off in the Hyatt. They don't have to deal with it. They got kind of their own dedicated area.
It certainly is spread out. That's probably what it has to do with it. Everybody's spread out. I mean, the miniatures gamers were on one side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was.
How long has it been since you've been to Origins?
It's been more than a decade and a half. Has to be.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, living in Washington State, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I was going to college and stuff like that. I didn't have time for that either.
But your business never took you east.
No. It's just only the Gen Con. Only the Gen Con.
John Z from the sunny Philippines. Origin starts on, I believe, June 18th, which is a Wednesday, and runs through Sunday. So, it's a cool convention, though. I mean, I've been, as a lifelong Ohioan, I'd be foolish not to go. But my first Origins was the last one that wasn't in Ohio, in Philadelphia, in 1995, where I was working the dealer's room there, and it was intense. Cool things happened at that Origins in 1995. I met Peter Atkinson at that particular convention for the first time. For example, interacted with a bunch of cool people. Didn't have tons of spare time, obviously, because we were running a booth. But
now, Jim, the when you're at Origins and you're I guess you're working for Columbia when you're there. Yeah. How much slack time do you have?
Well, at I should say what happens at Gen Con, because at Origins, I'm actually going to be, we don't have a booth. I'm going as me, I'll be a representative. Absolutely. But I'm going to have lots of free time. Don't tell Grant that. Okay. Don't tell them that. I'm not
don't tell Grant that. Don't tell Brant that, because if either of them hear that, you're either in trouble or Brant will give you some work to do. Yeah, so right. It is not my birthday. My birthday is tomorrow.
Yeah, my birthday was yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Was it? Happy birthday, Dan. Thanks, I got possibly the most. I'll talk about this on the show tomorrow, but I got what is possibly the best Christmas present or birthday present I have ever received, which was tickets to see John Anderson and the Band Geeks play at the Cleveland Agora. It was amazing. So I am pleased. I've been saying it. All the best people are born in May.
You're okay. This is connected to music and games and character. Okay, so you're more of an RPGer than you are a war gamer. Am I wrong?
Oh no, I'm right in the middle of that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You can actually tell that by my favorite RPG system is the Fantasy Trip, and I think that's the Wargamers RPG. It
is a Wargaming RPG.
It is.
That and Traveler still have a lot of cachet, I think, amongst Wargamers.
Yeah, it just does. You're playing a tactical game as well as a role playing game. It's definitely, based on the old school model, and you're rolling the dice and you're seeing what happens rather than the narrative form. But I mean, I've been playing, and I seen the thing there. Scott Buell, happy birthday to you, one of your fans there.
Yep, Scott, all the finest, like I said. And I got to meet Scott at WBC, I think 2 years ago.
Okay, so as far as war game is concerned, I mean, I've played a lot of the games maybe in the 80s and stuff like that, but very lightly. Just lately, ever since I've been with Columbia, actually, just picking up these SPI games and just loving it. Actually, it started with the micro games, for metagaming. And I'm like,
right.
This was a whole new world to me, because in the 80s, I always pushed this stuff aside, even though those were released in the 80s too. I just didn't see them at the time. But a lot of the SPI stuff, I'm a typical kid. I'm thinking of, that looks old. Or, I want new flashy stuff, And it's like, and here I am. But the good thing is I'm looking at it, and there's so much I'm learning about war games in general, about how they play, the rules set up, how they're written. It's absolutely fascinating, and I love it for both good and bad. Some of them are the best, and then we have some redemption stories like Moonbase Clavius, Carrie Anderson
Yes.
of British Columbia.
Yes.
He made that game. The Task Force games, it didn't really do too well, got a little panned, but it was because Task Force changed his vision, and he came about, and we talked and stuff like that, and he already had it all set up and fixed it all up, and now a whole bunch of new generation of people have checked out Moonbase Clavius.
Yes.
And it's he fixed all the things, I think, and I think people who've gotten it are going to really enjoy themselves.
Now
I'm not positive that Task Force games did much that I liked that wasn't called Starfleet Battles. So
it was cute. If you were lucky enough to buy those $2 games back then, but $2 was a little substantial back then. They're fun, man. It's all this nostalgic fun stuff,
Yeah.
So how exciting was it for you then, James, when Steve Jackson got the license back or the rights back to the fantasy trip and did that Kickstarter? That I presume you got the one of everything.
Actually, that's how I was introduced to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes, because
okay.
I did not actually. I knew of its existence because I loved Melee, the combat system. That's what I was introduced to as a kid.
Okay.
I found it somehow, and it was this weird artwork, and I just played it over a weekend with my buddy, and I just absolutely loved the system. But I never played in the Labyrinth. I never played it, never got my hands on it. It wasn't around, and I was a D&D guy anyway. So I wasn't going to try necessarily change the system there. But then all of a sudden I seen them have it there at Gen Con. I looked at it and like, gosh dang it, I love that system. And I was thinking about just getting Melee itself, just to have nostalgia. And I said,
I did exactly the same thing. It'd be cool just to get Melee to check it out, and I ended up buying the whole thing.
I knew something in me said, well, I had the money, and I said $89, I'll buy the Legacy Edition, and I never went backwards. I just absolutely fell in love, and I'm floored that it didn't get more traction when it was out originally. I think a lot of that has to do with production values. Truthfully, I mean, Dungeons & Dragons had the name, they had the artwork and everything, and a lot of the stuff back in the day still felt like with some of these companies, it felt like they typed it on a typewriter and just copied it, and that was about it.
In some cases, they literally did.
Yeah, and I love them for that. I mean, you have to appreciate the lengths that these guys went through to make these games. Got to appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You didn't have that,
especially the grief Steve had to deal with metagaming.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there was a lot of no love lost there, I guess, in some ways. I don't know much really about it and stuff.
I don't either, but I know it was. It eventually became at least a little bit acrimonious because Steve had to fight to get the rights to his own game back from them for decades. I
think it was a deal that they made, though. It wasn't really, as far as that goes. I know he got Ogre, which wasn't the wrong decision.
Right.
I quite honestly, I would have thought if he had to choose between Ogre and the fantasy trip, Ogre was still the right decision. I love Ogre, so that doesn't bother
You're
me.
almost certainly right about that. I think.
Yeah,
that's the much more marketable game.
Much more marketable, no competition and let's face it, Ogre was the gateway game for a lot of wargamers.
Absolutely.
That was just a beautiful game. Then you got one page bulge, and it really did a good job. And you think about it, I was just doing this video about SPI's little tri-pack that they had to try to get new gamers in. They put all their effort into the Napoleon game, which was beautiful. I loved it. I loved playing it. But the Tower of Azan, which was a choose your own adventure game, something about that was just the combat system was just it was bargain basement, didn't make any sense. And the other one, which was the Creatures that Ate New York, was okay. But I just thought that for all the effort they put into saying, hey, let's get these science fiction and war gamers, or science fiction and fantasy people in the wargaming, they would have to make the science fiction and fantasy games just as good as Napoleon was.
So Napoleon at Waterloo, which is the war game part of that, is actually an older production that they had released, and Jim Dunigan had designed several years before that, and had given it away at the time. And then when it became clear that there was a market for this fantasy and other stuff, then they did that. That's when they did that tri-pack, that something adventure gaming. I forget the exact title.
I off the top of my head, I can't. I just did the video a few months ago and I can't remember it.
I think of the three, the only one that got an independent release, but by itself, was Napoleon at Waterloo, which was released in like a little folio at one point because it's small, and then they later released it inexplicably in an entire SPI flat tray, which I guess put the whole thing in like one compartment. So, or possibly two. Or maybe even three, because the Prussians show up eventually.
Jim, I wanted to ask you something.
Yeah.
I asked Artie this and some other people, but because you do a lot of Harn stuff and all, we're three guys, and I finally have a gaming gang, 3 guys.
Okay. That's enough.
Guy, that's fine. But the one guy, all he wants to play is Carcassonne. That's all he wants to play is Carcassonne.
Which is not a bad game, in fairness.
Jesus, but if somebody want to play it,
right? Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Expired
I want
for
to
me.
get into an RPG with these guys. One guy, the guy who always wants to play Carcassonne, judge him as you want. The other guy's a bit of a World War II guy, and I'm a World War II guy. What RPG would you suggest me presenting them and not pulling one of these? I don't want to play that stupid game and whatever.
Oof. Now for World War II, I mean, what kind of game are you going to be playing though? It really comes down to, are you playing a cinematic game, or are you going to play a rough and tumble kind of reality kind of based? I'm assuming, because you're a historian, the reality kind of based, which I'm kind of leaning towards GURPS there for a second.
GURPS?
There is no game system that has as much support for historical RPG play as GURPS.
Yeah, but what about the other guy who always wants to play Carcassonne? He's not a World War II guy.
Well, question. Then I would also, you'd have to adapt it. It wouldn't be hard to adapt. I mean, I would. The fantasy trip's a little bit easier. If the thing is, if you can get this guy, the good thing is if you get the Carcassonne guy to play this game and he loves it, he has a tendency to keep on wanting to play the same thing, right? So the campaign may never end.
So what game you talking about?
The fantasy trip.
Fantasy trip.
Yeah, that's Steve Jackson's game. You'd have to. It's technically it's all fantasy, but you can easily adapt it if you're doing more of a cinematic style. Maybe for that as far as actions go, it depends on the combat. I mean, part of me just says I think. I don't know. He wants to play Carcassonne. Does he play anything else a little bit more detailed or anything?
Nothing. He's got all the expansions. He even bought the insert, the special insert for his game. So everything is placed nice. So he's blinging it out.
If they made one of those for World in Flames, I'd have bought it. Just so you know.
Thing is, and he's way stronger than both of us put together. So we can't beat the shit out of this guy. It doesn't work.
Okay. Well, the other game that I would say, if that doesn't, because you'd have to be a little bit more familiar with the fantasy trip. If you're going with a narrative game, Fate, the Fate system, I love that system. It just works with a more of a cinematic kind of style, because a lot of games, the thing is with OSR style games, they're beautiful. But in the 80s, when I was playing, I was always looking for something that was like the stories and in the cartoons and the movies that I was into. And unfortunately, with the old school kind of rules with Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, let's put it this way: the Stormtroopers would have shot Luke Skywalker if they were an OSR. That's the truth of it. So a cinematic style like Fate would actually allow for just the cinematic plot armor that you've got to have in a lot of these games. So I guess it would all come down to your players, and that's what I would suggest. I guess I'd have to know more on that.
So if we're talking about RPGs here, Dan, and I believe that we are, do any of the 3 of you, so it's 3 total people, it's not you plus 3 other people? Okay.
2 guys would get into World War II, absolutely. The other guy, what can I tell you?
So if it's a...
Is this a time for me to sing?
I think
RPG, somebody's got to run it, right? So
no, you blocked Artie.
That was just some kind of StreamYard hiccup. Yeah, no, I know.
No,
That's a StreamYard hiccup because So so in an RPG, unless it's a pretty unconventional one that doesn't have a game master, those do exist, but they're very niche. Somebody's got to run it, and so somebody has to be the game master. That could be your World War II guy. That could be cool. I'm thinking maybe, Dan, you don't want to have to do that yourself, especially with your experience level with RPGs. And your Carcassonne guy, I'm just assuming that he doesn't play RPGs.
Are you kidding? That guy?
So if you gotta start totally cold, there are options, but none of them are World War II, which has never been a favorite RPG genre. There are a few of those games. There are even fewer Napoleonics games, if it makes you feel any better. Not none. There's a couple, but the GURPS has a Napoleonic source book, for example.
I forgot about the game master thing. God,
That's true.
have to be the game master because I'm introducing them to that, and I don't know shit from Shinola.
You know what? I'd probably recommend, James. Do you have any like visibility on like the modern dungeon crawler board game type of things?
On the board game kind of things, not as of lately. I mean, like you're talking like Descent or something like that.
Yeah, Descent. Well, I have very little visibility on those.
You know what? Though, that might. I get what you're going at there because maybe making it a board game would be better in this essence because
I understand
going around with the board game. You know.
And you can get at any big bookstore, at least here in Ohio, you could get the TSR, like D&D Dungeon Crawler board games, which are relatively straightforward, I believe. I have played exactly 0 of them, but there are several, right? The ones I've played are the one that's like Risk and Wrath of a Chardalon and Lords of Waterdeep, which is nothing like a dungeon crawler. I'd throw a dungeon crawler down. That way nobody's committed to like this multi-month saga and see how it's received. And then if it's well received, you can keep playing that, or you can play D&D, which you'd be able to step into that relatively easily.
I actually have in my car, and it's in
as
my
much
car,
as I hate to say it that
ready
way.
to go. And Aeon's End Legacy. Oh, Aeon's End, is that it?
I believe I know the game you're talking about. I have no knowledge of it whatsoever.
Thanks for nothing, guys.
Yeah. Dave, was it this year? Because they've done that before. It's like this D&D port to the Revolutionary period. It strikes me as a very strange creative choice on the designer's part, but everybody seems to have a fairly high opinion of it. I don't remember exactly what it's called. So, and yeah, there are a bunch of GURPS. There was like a whole line of GURPS books, but I cannot truthfully recommend that new RPG players or inexperienced RPG players. I cannot, in good conscience, direct them at GURPS. I just can't. Yeah, it's just a lot to swallow. There are ways to approach it that are easier, but I mean, you could go download GURPS Lite, just to download it from Steve Jackson and have a look at that. And see if you can make heads or tails of it. And I'll be happy to give you advice on this, Dan.
Okay, no.
Shadows of Brimstone. Meandering Mike suggests Shadows of Brimstone, and it has miniatures you can paint.
Yeah, I'm into that, man.
So Nations and Cannons. Yeah, that is in fact what it is called. So Jim, you're also affiliated with Columbia Games, who you help out with like marketing and communications. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, basically, for Columbia Games, like you said, it's marketing, communications, social media. I mean, just all the promotional stuff that I try to do with the forum. I actually got the job just as I was getting out of college. It was started by doing a statistical report. And I said, boy, I want to work with a game company because why not? I love games, right? And I was just really big on block wargaming at the time. And so I contacted Grant and I said, hey, I really love your games. I own half of them. So let me do some work for you for statistics. And him seeing a free meal said, sure. And I did some work for the statistics and he liked it. And the next thing you know, I get out of college and I'm working for him part-time. And, and then next thing you know, maybe a few years later, I'm moving out to Washington full-time with the guys. But basically, it's just a lot of Kickstarters. I'm in charge of getting all the Kickstarters ready, newsletter, any kind of advertising. If you see it, it's got my thumbprint on it.
I see. Okay.
What did I assume that the latest Harnquest Kickstarter has completed at this point?
It was Harnquest. That was a good one. We got like 100 new subscribers of Harnquest. I mean, we got more backers, but 100 of them were brand new blood, and that was so good to see.
Yeah, that's great.
It is. So that was because usually we promote Harnquest, we promote on social media and everything like that, newsletters all the time. Because if you get into Harn world, we've got over $2,500 worth of content that you can buy. But with Harnquest, you not only do you pay like $25 or $25 to $29 a month, and you're going to get the latest issue of all the newest releases, because we've been coming out with new content every quarter for decades now. And then not only do you get that, which is worth the money alone, but then you get the right to buy any PDF for 50% off. I mean, once at first you dabble, you get a few things, that's fine. But by the time you say, I'm going to get one of the Kingdom books, it's like, you might as well join Harnquest and just, rip the Band-Aid off and save yourself some money. I mean, I see it all the time that people are still buying at full price. I'm like, why? I don't understand it. Do I not say this enough? I feel like I'm saying it to the Raptors,
I do think that is a fairly common response to when I tell people about Harn, for example, then they go look, they say, oh, this sounds awesome. And then they go look at it and see what looks like relatively high price tags, without knowing that there are other options available, and one of which is the Kickstarters, but one of which is Harnquest, which gives you, if you don't mind getting stuff in PDF and all the article stuff, you might as well get it in PDF. You're getting them at half off, at which point it becomes an exceptionally great deal.
Yeah, well, actually, the print is actually still a good deal too, because it doesn't cost too much to get the print along with the PDF. And
that's true.
The printer that we have is a beautiful printer where I'm constantly asking them to do a cost analysis because it's not cheap. I'm like, it prints out some beautiful stuff. I'm like, are we making our money back on this? It's like, but the thing is, we've done it for decades and stuff like that. They just, had another agreement with the company and stuff. It's a beautiful printer. I took full advantage of that when I was, don't tell Tom. Don't tell Tom.
Unfortunately, it's kind of out there now.
If I'm going to come out with a new code for a discount, it's going to be don't tell Tom.
Don't tell Tom. Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, I definitely, that was a good printer, and they use that for Harnquest, and it's high quality print. And speaking of high quality, another thing is the writers. I mean, you guys, you know this already. I don't know if you deal with just war games, or you deal with Harn World 2, Dan.
No, just war games.
Okay, that's cool. But yeah, it's quality stuff.
It is very, very much so.
Yeah, so you're getting what you pay for on that one. But even then, at half off, it's a steal at that point.
Yeah, I've got a color laser printer that will handle fairly heavyweight paper. So, it's probably not as well. I could tell you, I've got some of the stuff that Columbia has printed. Mine are not as nice. But I'm happy having most of the stuff in digital unless I need it. I won't print stuff unless it's like setting up a campaign. So when I started working on this Ratheme idea, I gathered the Ratheme Kingdom article and Agric and Lorani articles and the clerical orders, and several sites and all that stuff. So, and the stuff on the Kubora, which was going to be central to the campaign. And
you impressed me with one thing. Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, go ahead. But yeah, I would print the material I need, because there's so much. There's, since 1983, there's been an enormous word count of material for Harn. So I would just print what I needed, and I'm completely okay with that.
Brent Bailey, our editor, I got to give him the biggest credit in the world with keeping the continuity of every new thing that comes out.
Mm.
They just know it. I mean, it's the whole team, and it's just, but they all know the stuff. And there's fans also from the Harn forums that'll definitely chime in. Now, luckily with PDFs, if there is anything that's ever made a mistake, we can go back. But the thing is, we've got the idea, we've got the dedication. We're not lazy about it. They absolutely know the stuff, But what I was saying, Ardwulf, Artie, is one thing I'm impressed with you is you said all the words correctly. I don't say all the words correctly all the time.
I know that I'm not.
Pronunciation guide.
Yeah, there is
a free PDF.
Oh, that's floating around. Yeah, there is a pronunciation guide. I don't care about the official pronunciations. If I'm going to run the thing, I'm going to pronounce the names however I think they sound the coolest.
Yeah.
So
I'm the type of guy that will say, fragile,
Or Archon.
Yeah, or Archon. That's right.
Hey, I didn't know.
What was the word you guys?
I didn't know, man.
Yeah, that's all good. What was the word you guys were talking about last week?
I don't know. Which one?
Montpellier?
Oh, Montelimar. I don't know if that was last week.
Montelimar.
Yeah, that's it. See, I knew Dan had it because he was all about it last week.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anyway, my copy of Montelimar has now departed, so it went away in the sale.
Jim, the reason why I know French is because I live in Quebec.
All right, of course.
So I mean, if you don't speak French, you're a moody bloke.
Do they call you roast beef if you don't speak French?
They don't talk to you at all.
Oh, okay,
like
fair
calling
enough.
Somebody a Firkin Doyle
because you don't speak French. No, I mean I knew exactly who you were talking about as soon as you mentioned Firkins. So Firkin, for those who don't know, Firkin was the fella among I think a few other people who used to rep for Columbia at Origins. And that's the context that I met Firkin in. He's an actual nice fella named Firkin Doyle from Ohio. So, and I hope Firkin's doing okay these days.
His name is Firkin.
Firkin is his actual name.
Which is the name,
Irish?
As I mentioned it, for Wizard Kings, it's the name of the
Firkins.
The humans, the Firkins. Mm-hmm. So that was how he got in his foot in the door on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know what nationality that guy is?
Not a clue.
Well, okay. Doyle makes him sound a little bit Irish.
Yeah, and the name Firkin, for God's sakes.
I have no idea. So, yeah, I do feel like Columbia, Jim, has been kind of facing an uphill struggle with Harn just to kind of get people to know about it, right?
Well, the thing is, we put out these maps, and by the way, Grant made it's good that you brought that up because Grant wanted me to thank you for promoting Harn for the maps that you put out. Your channel put out hundreds of those maps from the link. So that was a good,
awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely good. Got a lot of good reaction from it. And a lot of the thing is just it's the thing about Columbia Games is they're so historically based on both avenues. Of course, war games, go figure, but also with Harn. That's a historical person's paradise there for role playing, right? Because it's so medieval based. But the thing is, our average person that plays is usually above 40 years old. And that's just the way it is,
well, I'm well under. I'm only 29.
Well, there you go then.
You are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get some people that are interested that are younger and have their eyes come over to it. So like games like Julius Caesar, just a beautiful game. We trick people we trick Euro players into playing a war game, and we trick war gamers into playing a Euro. That's how I usually like to say it. It's a reason why it's one of the top war games of all time on Board Game Geeks list. It's just gorgeous.
That's a classic.
You made me think of a limerick that I've forgotten when you said Firkin. The guy's name is Firkin, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a boy called Perkin who was always jerking his gherkin, and his father said, "Perkin, stop jerking your gherkin. Your gherkin's for Firkin, not for jerking."
You're going to have a 3-second delay button next time, ain't you, Artie?
I got that.
That killed me, man.
I got this for when Dan busts this kind of stuff out.
That killed me, man.
Yeah, you're killing me too, Dan.
Yeah,
slowly, week by week. But I feel like there's kind of I mean, I guess it's just a marketing challenge, right? On the one hand, I think Hearn has tended to attract more people who want like a very medieval feeling game.
Yeah.
Which is, traditionally for RPGs that's a niche, even inside the niche that is already RPGs. But at the same time, we've just sat through not that long ago, a very medieval feeling TV show was like the biggest show in the world.
Yeah. I use it all the time.
Yeah, and
Thrones, right?
Yeah, and I think people are maybe missing the boat here because it's all built right in. There is literally a dynastic struggle situation built in already that you could just say, okay, here we go, off we go.
Yeah, so it's definitely one thing I always say. Do you like Game of Thrones or something? And that usually gets them going, but they have to actually have the. Go to the testimonials. So you're just taking it from one guy. That's why we do a lot with the testimonials. We've been sending out the books to just about everybody. Not just everybody. We go to the prominent people, that love Harn and everything like that. But it really comes down to demographics. It just does. As a marketer, one thing that I have to do is make sure that my clients save money on advertising. Because let me tell you, you can blow a buttload of money on just cracks in the holes in the pavement, man. You'll just siphon cash. And by thinking, one of the things that happen when you do marketing, you put an advertisement out. And you put in, it's called like an A/B test. You do one advertisement here, then you do another advertisement, and you say, okay, send this to 18 to 29-year-olds, send this to 30 to 40-year-olds, and etc. And if it don't pay, you don't play. You just stop. That's one of the beautiful things about modern advertising, because advertising normally before the internet got so big, you just threw money, and that was it. And once it was gone, they did their thing, and that was on. You could still do some demographic or due diligence and stuff like that, but you can really fine tune now. Matter of fact, I can just fine tune to wargamers themselves, and it's just so. I've got a system, and it just saves a lot of cash. I really wish there was something for to get the 30 at 30. I think I could get people if I could just introduce them in some different way.
Well, I am delighted that Columbia got a lot of hits on the map. That I wasn't really planning on that, although thinking about it, not very hard. I could see why that occurred because I kind of focused on the map because it's amazing, and the video got a lot of views, so much more than I anticipated. Let me put it that way.
I was wondering if that was you pushing that, or if it was just the algorithm said, "I like you."
No, I hit the algorithm just the right way at an exact right time. To the limited extent that I did, right? But I'm not accustomed to videos hitting 36,000 views in the first couple of weeks. Okay. Yeah, like in the first 2 weeks. I'm like, what the? I don't even know what's going on. There will be follow-ups, folks. I just have to get the time. There's a certain large project that is very much in my way right now, but we will be wrapping that up soon.
The next time that happens, Artie, let me give the only advice I can tell you is whatever project you're working on for a video, stop it and go back to that one and not copy it, but make a link. Because that's the algorithm's going to be looking for that with your next video.
Yeah,
You go off to talk about war games again, and I'm not doing this just for Columbia Games' benefit, by the way. I'm just saying, whatever you do, if you ever hit it again, do the same thing with your next video. That's what.
Yeah, I'll have to try.
Yeah.
Wow, man, you gotta be, Jim. You gotta be pretty focused in a job like yours. I'm not focused at all. I'm more artsy. I would fail tremendously, man.
Well, it takes it. What it is I've had to be pretty organized in my life. You can get obsessive about details and stuff like that. It's just, and I guess that's a life thing. I used to have a lot of chaos and stuff. it's just about priorities. And that's it. And just getting rid of the fat that don't matter. Matter of fact, a good example is this is all my games that I've got back here. You don't see them all actually, but I only have like 5 shelves of games anymore. I used to have like huge amounts.
Yes,
and then when I had a game store for 5 years that got worse.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then I had, but then at that point, it was like the collection owned me. I didn't own it. And I said,
Jim, if you're driving to Origins, you must, if it's on the way, and it might be, if you take, say, if you take 90 out and get on 71, or 480, this works on 480 as well. There's a place that's right near the intersection of I-71 and I-480, okay? It's called the Warzone Matrix. It's by Cleveland Hopkins Airport. If you are hitting that interchange, you must stop.
All right.
Because your hoard of stuff from your game store, this place is jaw-dropping, okay? It must be seen to be believed.
Right on. Is it one of the, is it just, does it have that, there's 2 types of game stores anymore. There's the one that is like, it's almost this guy's back room.
Yes.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Or there's the, I hate to say it, but homogenized, everybody's playing Magic and Warhammer, and that's all they carry, kind of thing.
No, this is the old kind of game store with everything stacked in up to the ceiling.
Does it smell like mothballs?
It smells mostly like the owner's dog, to be completely honest.
That's great. That's great.
But those are the places that actually, the reason I love places like that, and there was a guy in Harrisburg when I lived there for a little while, Fair? I forgot his name, but he owned a little store himself, and it was just like a typical bookstore from the Northeast states, just homey and stuff like that. You're going through and everything you're looking through, with a really structured store, where everything is, and you can pass it by. Mm-hmm. It's just like you're searching everywhere. I guess it's the same difference between if you do medieval fairs at all, you got Great Lakes Medieval Fair, and then you have the other medieval fairs. I seen this one medieval fair that was, I forget where it was, and it was like a city blocks, and you could tell everywhere you're going. Great Lakes Medieval Fair, you got these big long trees, and it's almost like they got this circular Mobius pattern going around. You get lost. You turn around. One time you turn, and then you're somewhere new, and then you come back to where you came before. It makes you look at things more and find those hidden treasures. That's when you're right. That's right. Those are the guys that have the rare stuff because nobody knew even the owner forgot he had it. Kind of.
This is very much that kind of game store.
That's great.
So, man. And I could confirm everything you just said about Great Lakes Medieval Fair too, having been there a number of times.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I worked as a pickle guy and an jewelry guy for a place called Ear Art. He's been all around. If you need some nice Swarovski crystals for your woman, I mean that's the guy to go to is Ear Art. Mike Monthan in the Great Lakes Medieval Fair. I know or any of the medieval fairs. Search him out. He's good stuff.
Hold on, Jim. You were selling pickles.
I was selling pickles and jewelry, not at the same time. Not at the same time, mind you. But I mean, I'd be a crier for the jewelry booth, or I'd just be selling pickles out of a cart,
Oh man, that's great.
I did that as a summer job for when I was going to BYU, Idaho, my Brigham Young University, and that's just what I did, a summer job to make some cash.
We have here in Montreal and around regions, Quebec. We have a lot of old forts, okay, because we were trying to protect ourselves from you guys, the Americans. And we succeeded. Not anymore, but we did then. But anyways, there's Unibrew. There's a beer company and a whiskey company that put a fair together. And I don't know if they're still doing it every year, but it's at a fort. It's called the Fort de Chambly. And everything is period. Music, hurdy-gurdy. And everybody's in costume. Old French soldiers walking around. That was pretty cool, man. And there was criers. But it's in French. You wouldn't understand.
Right on.
My French is
like a fun time, though.
I bet.
With the whiskey and the beer, man.
I bet. I always pronounced it unibrow, but
Unibrew.
Okay.
Single beer.
Yeah, no, I've had it actually. It is excellent. It's a Belgian style brewery out of Quebec. It is excellent beer. I can confirm.
So having an Unibrew with a pickle would work.
So, Jim, how big an effect have the various Kickstarters that Columbia has done? How big an effect has that had on like the company? Is it getting like a substantial number of new folks interested? No, I'm talking the wargame stuff too, not just the Harn stuff.
Well, with the Harn stuff, it was for a while there was just our customers a little bit. We'd always gain more with a Kickstarter. You're always going to gain more because you're going to get those eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And our newsletter is very strong. We got we put out a blast on our newsletter, and our people are dedicated. We just don't have people that just willy nilly. I mean, we do. We have people that are new with the Harn maps or something that they download for free, but the Kickstarters, long story short, yes, absolutely have made a big impact, especially once we got rolling on a basis of one after the other. With the biggest hiccup that was a problem was during the pandemic with Rommel in the Desert, our very first deluxe version. Mm-hmm. That was a nightmare, unfortunately. We got through it, but COVID just hit. Then not only did it hit, we found that there was a mistake with the map, and it wasn't a small one, and we had to go back and reprint it. And that had to come over, But and so it was. But the thing is, the final verdict, though, everybody was happy once they got it. It was a little bit of grumbling, but then all of a sudden everybody got it, and it was like all is forgiven.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Very nice production.
Absolutely. And then we did that. Then it was. Julius Caesar and now Alliance came out.
Which is also gorgeous.
Alliance is absolutely gorgeous, and people are loving it. They're playing it in conventions all over because Alliance is that kind of a game. You're going to try to it's a 3 to 7 player game, but let's face it, you want to play 7 players.
You kind of do, yeah. I would want to, yeah. I'm actually running it at Origins.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, so I've got two slots of it that I'm running at Origins in the Wargame HQ area.
Oh, that's awesome.
So.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So Grant's got to get me. Just tell Grant to send me the map, the big map, because it does make a difference. We had it on it. We had the regular just the mounted map on a table at Buckeye Game Fest, and it's like, ooh, this is cramped.
I'll make sure that is sent.
Okay, cool.
That map, like all of our other neoprenes, is
humongous.
A map where people are going to be like, because they're going to look. But yeah, the Kickstarters have definitely done good, especially for Harn World. They just keep on. Now that we can roll things out a lot, it's made a big difference because momentum is everything. And so they want to make sure that they're getting their product. With that hiccup with Rommel, the next 2 Kickstarters didn't do as well, but that was almost predicted. Like Julius Caesar of all things, we were talking as one of the top war games of all time. Yet it didn't do as well because. But now it's selling well, because they're waiting on Alliance. Julius Caesar sold with that, and they've been buying it now because they're not gun shy anymore. They got Rommel, and once they got Rommel in their hands, they were cool. They were just. Most people don't want to wait on a company when they're waiting on the game. They want it delivered first before they order another, right?
Oh, and I suppose congratulations on the Charles S. Roberts Award nomination for Alliance.
Yeah,
so
that was a definitely notch in the belt. Tom's going to be very happy about that one.
I wanted to ask Jim something before this 3-part question.
All right, go ahead. You ask Dan, and then we'll get to John Miller. John, thank you for the support. It is much appreciated. Go ahead,
John. Just give me a second. I saw your question, and it was like, I got to get in before John's question. The game you were talking about that had to be reprinted because something happened, and you had to send it back. Is that game? When that happens, and I'm talking about just that single game, not the whole bunch, not the company, just that single game, is that game sold at a loss?
No, because luckily it was just, I mean, overall, I have to do the numbers on that one, but I don't think it hurt. It didn't help, but it didn't kill the game at all because, I mean, luckily it was Rommel in the desert,
Right.
A highly regarded game anyway.
If it was some other game and stuff like that, it might have. But things like this have happened before. Pacific Victory was we had to actually do something where we called it. We mentioned it was a mounted map. We probably should have called it a deluxe map because everybody's kind of, but everybody was kind of calling it either one. Yeah, that one right there.
Mm-hmm.
But some people were like, it's not a mounted map, and what they did is they gave a good credit to everybody that bought the game. That one you could almost say that we lost a good bit of money. I wouldn't say we taken a loss like overall in the overall project, but it takes its hits. But I can tell you, it's a testament to how much Columbia really cares about its customers and wants to make things right when they do make a mistake.
Which does happen.
Company.
That matters, man.
Yeah, they're a small company, and it's like, and they do it because Tom's done it because he just loves games in general, and he's willing to take that hit. While a lot of the other guys would be a little bit more Ferengi-like, if you want to use a Star Trek term, and just say, hey, buddy, once you get a person's money, you never give it back, right?
Yeah.
But he, there's two stories I have about Tom here, if I may.
Oh, by all means.
One was Alliance itself. The reason it took so long was, one, he was trying to get the map right, and his eyesight was going, right? And he was really trying. He got a big, like, magnifying glass to look at a screen. He could have bought a bigger screen, but he bought a magnifying glass on it. He was really trying to make that work, and it ended up working out. But another reason was he insisted on trying to make the 3-player game work. Now, like we just said, everybody knows they want to play that game with a 7-player game. But he was like, it was supposed to be 3 to 7, and he was ringing it. He went down a rabbit hole of trying to make that work, and it took him a while. He would not put it out until that happened. Now, the other story goes into the role-playing aspect of it, where we had a game called High Colonies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is a hard science fiction role-playing game, which he's a big fan of The Expanse and all that stuff. So he really wanted this, and it was a previous release actually.
I too can vouch for Tom's excellent taste.
Yeah, but the thing is, the only thing that held up that game for a while was his insistence on fixing the space movement rule or space travel rules, or not rules, but the distances. He wanted to figure out, if it's March and you were traveling here to this planet, how long would it take? And it was like he was trying to make a system because, as you know, everything shifts. It would have probably been better, I think, if he just made a generalization. Because
I would say,
most people wouldn't even know the difference. But Tom's trying to figure this stuff out, and he went down a rabbit hole of research, and I just think he just loved it, quite honestly, as much as. And Grant goes right along with him with trying to figure things. Sometimes I got to pull him out of the rabbit hole a little bit and stuff like that. But sometimes he yanks and just pulls me in and said, get over here. And, it's like, so.
High Colony is pretty neat. I've actually done at least one, maybe 2 videos on it. It's pretty much it's an adaptation of the Hardmaster core mechanic anyway, and into hard science fiction. It's quite a cool package.
Yeah, the storyline's pretty neat too. I mean, there's like only 1 million people left in the universe, basically. Earth's wiped out, and everybody lives on space stations. And because you don't see each other as much, and communications are down and stuff, it's almost like, I don't know. Did you ever watch a show called Blake 7?
I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah.
It's kind of almost like when you travel somewhere, it's an excuse of how you can travel somewhere and not know everything that's going on. Right now in our world, we can almost see everything that's going on right now in real time, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but I mean, now there's mysteries to solve, like crazy experiments going on, and then just, of course, your typical politics.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, let's get to John's question, and I think we actually asked Grant this, or it came out during our interview with Grant. John is asking, and once again, John, thanks for the support. It is much appreciated, and really does help the channel. Asks sort of what percentage of the business is the RPG stuff versus the war games. I think Grant said it was roughly 50-50, as I recall.
I want to say 60-40 in favor of Harn.
Okay.
Only because that's a little bit more stable is not the right word for it, because wargaming is stable all the time. But I would just say 60-40 because, well, maybe in the last decade, role-playing games have gone through the roof. So, that probably might have a reason why I'm having that perception. But, definitely that's how my perception is 60-40.
Okay. Fair enough. And who knows? It might change from year to year. I'm sure it does to some extent, just based on how we released this big package this year of Alliance, and for that matter, Quebec 1759. I might, yeah. Is that released yet?
Yeah, that's gone. That's already
okay.
People are getting that. And it's a beautiful movie. That was all done by Harn artist Richard Luschek, of all people.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that Richard is doing the art there too, and it's a dynamite-looking game, and it's not only a classic but a super important war game to the history of wargaming. So I was delighted to see you folks bringing it back.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful production all around and stuff like that. It's amazing that Richard would actually have the time when he's got a Harn to work on as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that's it was just definitely nice to see. Matter of fact, they just pulled out there's a log entry that we're going to, I don't know if it's out yet or not. I got to talk to Grant. But there's this nice that Richard was drawing up. It was like a logbook entry of turns and such to put orders on. So you can actually catalog your games.
Oh, that'll be super useful.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that play every week, every Sunday at their house. I can only imagine if they had this logbook at that time. They literally play Quebec 1759 every week. It's like, wow, that's a lot of games of Quebec. Maybe it's that guy. Maybe it's that guy that plays.
I don't know how many times can you relive the horror of the English taking over? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't know. It depends how French you are, doesn't it? But
Jim, I wanted to ask you, High Colonies. Do you need a game master for High Colonies?
Yeah,
you do. But actually, that would be, if you want. I'm wondering.
So I guess just to say this,
super interesting.
There is it's pretty neat. There is a recent trend over the last 5 or maybe a little longer years, but not by much, of people getting into solitaire RPG play. There's a lot of resources for that on YouTube, and you don't necessarily need any special equipment to accomplish it, or any particular game. You could do it with whatever you want.
I just did a video on one, as a matter of fact, and I'm surprised that I didn't even think about it. And it's simple, Dan. It's simple. It's called Kalaroth.
I watched that video.
Yeah, it's a great little system, and you can easily adapt that to like a World War II thing. I think the only problem is if you're not experienced game master, saying you should adapt something is going to be kind of it might be intimidating. But if you change guns to arrows to guns,
Yeah, I know, and it doesn't have to be World War II. I mean, sci-fi would he would get into sci-fi.
Well, in that case, Dan, we'll have to talk. I could take care of this, no problem. Jim knows exactly where I'm going with that. And actually a fabulous solitaire experience too. A Traveler, it can be, because it's got so many little things you can do with it that will happen like outside the actual game session with other people. Solo game. What was it called again, Jim? I'm not going to trust myself to remember. Kalaroth. So I put a link. Hopefully I have it still in the buffer.
KAL/ALATH.
Yeah, I just put a link to Jim's channel again in the chat so people can hop over there and take a look at it. I believe it is your most recent or a pretty recent video.
I think it is the most recent one, I think. It's funny. I do so many videos, sometimes I forget which one I've done lately.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I'm I bet. That, and there's a sister game a supplement to it that you might as well get at the same time. And that is, let me see here. Oh, nope, Dragon Slayer was the last one.
Yeah.
The SPI Dragon Slayer. I would love to check that out, Dragon Slayer, actually.
Yeah. I'll have to, you're not too far away. Maybe I'll come by and bring it.
The Warzone had a copy last time I was there, actually.
Oh,
yeah. So
Ardwulf, that was the sister game, but they'll see them within the video and all.
Yeah. Check the video out and check out Jim's channel.
High Colonies looks really interesting, man. Because
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
It is. It is. If and you can play so many different types of campaigns on it. Mm-hmm. It's good. I'll tell you what. If anything, I should just say this. It's just a good read. People buy Harn just to read it.
That's actually not that weird for RPG products in general. I've found.
Yeah,
I've found so.
Right, so that's it's just a good read. So I think you get some enjoyment just out of it in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dan, you have any further questions for Jim before we let him head off to his evening?
I can't think of any right now. I'm sure at 3:00 in the morning something's going to pop up.
I am positive that will occur. All right, Jim, it's been great. If you want to stick around after the wrap here for a couple of minutes, folks, it has been a fabulous hour that has gone very quickly with Jim from both Columbia Games and the Castle Archon YouTube channel. So check that channel out. And if you're unfamiliar with Columbia Games and you're still here, by all means, ColumbiaGames.com. Go check them out. They've got amazing war games and RPG products on tap over there at Columbia Games. So everybody have a great rest of the night. We'll see you all again soon.